Do the people who hurt us when we're kids ever think about it? I'm not talking about, I hope they know what they've done and I hope they regret it. Personally, I've done the work and I'm good, at least where middle and high school are concerned. But even still, my mind drifts back to specific incidents of when I was a kid, specific people, and I'm genuinely curious in a very human kind of way. Like, do they remember? Do they ever know the pain they truly caused? Did it fade for them the way it faded for me? Or are they still carrying it too, just from the other side? And then, because I can't help myself, I flip it. Who did I hurt? And do they ever think about it? Welcome. This is Being Human on Purpose. I'm your host, Sara Olin, and I'm really glad you're here. Before we get into today's episode, if you're new here, I want to tell you about something I've been building. It's called Perspectives, and it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm bringing guests onto the show from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences, different worldviews. Not to debate, not to convince or be convinced, just to share. Because I genuinely believe that the more we understand each other's stories, the harder it becomes to write each other off. And right now, the world could use a little more of that. The first episode drops this September. I'm so excited for you to meet the people I've been talking to. Visit beinghumanonpurpose.com for more information or to apply to be a featured guest. Something else I've been building, and I'm really excited about this, is the Feather Haven Post Club. Feather Haven is my real backyard wildlife sanctuary, a garden where wild animals come to rest, eat, and just be. And I've been turning it into a children's newsletter because the creatures who show up here have real stories worth telling. Each issue follows a real animal from the garden, brought to life through illustrations and a story narrated by Amma, the oldest, wisest tree in the garden, who's been watching over this place longer than anyone else. Kids get a collectible Feather Haven friend card with a real photograph of the featured animal, a story they can grow into, whether they're 4 or 10, a little kindness challenge to carry with them, and more. The first issue features Edelweiss, a great egret who shows up to breakfast every morning like he owns the place. And honestly, he kind of does. If you have little ones in your life who love animals, the outdoors, or just a really good story, I think this is going to be something special. Visit welcometofeatherhaven.com to reserve your child's first issue today. All links can be found in the show notes. Now, let's talk about the things we carry. When I was little, the woman my dad was dating had a younger brother. He was a teenager when I was maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. He was ruthless to me. Verbally, just mean. No other word for it. And I hated having to be around him. I hated it. He made me feel small in that particular way that only another person can make you feel when they've decided that, for whatever reason, you're someone worth picking on. Now, kids don't fully understand the depth of what they're doing. I know that. But at 6, 7, it just hurts. Here's the thing, though. Years later, several years ago now actually, my dad ran into him. And this man, now fully grown, said to my dad, "I was terrible to Sara when she was little. Tell her I said I'm sorry." Now, I don't recall how they bumped into each other. And I don't ever remember telling my dad when I was a kid how much I didn't like him. That doesn't mean I didn't, I just don't remember it. My memory serves me holding a lot in because I never felt I had a safe enough place to truly share my feelings as a child. I always felt like no one had the patience for my tears. The times I did cry, more times than not, I either couldn't hold them in or I was seeking attention. But I knew when not to bother. But that's all a topic for another episode. Back to my dad and his ex's brother. I didn't need that apology. By the time I received it, whatever wounds he had left had long since healed over. I was fine. I had moved on. The little girl who hated being around him had grown into a woman who barely thought about him. But I'll be honest with you, when my dad told me what he said, I was impressed. Not relieved, not vindicated, but impressed. Because that kind of reflection is rare. The willingness to look backward at who you were, acknowledge the damage you caused, and say something about it, even through a messenger, even decades later. That takes something. Not everyone gets there. Fewer people actually go there even when they do. And I found myself thinking, maybe that apology wasn't for me at all. Maybe I was just the delivery address. Maybe he just needed to say it, to reckon with who he'd been, to take some accountability for his own sake, for his own peace. And that reframe, accountability as something you do for yourself, not just the person you hurt, that changed something for me. Now, here's where it gets interesting because at various points in my life, both as a child and as an adult, I was also the one causing the pain. I won't sugarcoat it because there were moments when I was deliberately hurting someone. And even in those moments, I knew it didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. I knew in real time that I was acting like someone I didn't want to be. But fear, embarrassment, insecurity, the desperate need to belong, depression, those things can override your better instincts faster than you can catch yourself, especially when you're a kid, and especially when your own feelings are already hurting. But something that stopped me in my tracks a few years ago. I reconnected with a girl I'd been really close to in third grade. You see, third grade was the one year that my best friend and I weren't in the same class. So in a way, this other girl was my third grade best friend. I changed schools in fifth grade and we lost touch. When we reconnected through Facebook, I was in the middle of my life coaching certification. And as we were catching up on each other's lives, she found this out. She mentioned to me that even as kids, I was doing that kind of thing, which surprised me a little bit. And then she told me a story that I had completely forgotten. I honestly still don't remember it. So this recount isn't even of my own recollection, but the story she told me about 10 years ago. She used to have a gap between her two front teeth. She was really self-conscious about it. I too have a gap. I still have my gap, but mine is in my bite. I have an open interior bite which keeps my top and bottom teeth in the front from meeting. The part I actually do remember is when getting photographed as a child, I would constantly stick my tongue through my gap. Now looking back, I thought it was a lack of self-control or just a lack of teeth to block my tongue. But according to my childhood friend, I used to do it on purpose so that my gap wouldn't be as noticeable. She knew this because apparently that's what I told her. I told her, just stick your tongue there to cover it. She remembered that for decades. I didn't, not even a little. I was just a kid sharing a dumb trick I'd figured out for myself. But she shared with me that it gave her confidence. It helped her. And I didn't even know that. There's something both humbling and kind of awe-inspiring about that. Because it means the reverse is also true. The words we throw away, the offhand comment, the casual dismissal, the joke that lands wrong, those can stay with people too, for years, sometimes forever. We don't always know when we're planting something. We rarely know whether we're planting something beautiful or something painful. We just keep going. And the seeds we drop either grow or they don't. We're usually long gone by the time either thing happens. Impact and awareness rarely arrive at the same time. As children, we're in survival mode most of the time. We're trying to figure out where we belong, who we are, whether people like us, whether we're safe. We don't have the emotional bandwidth or honestly the neurological development to fully hold the idea that this thing I'm saying right now might live inside this person for 30 years. Adults barely manage that sometimes. Something that helped me make peace with parts of my past is understanding why kids do what they do. I used to tell my kids that the kids doing the bullying are almost always being bullied. Almost always. More often than not. They're pushing around whoever they can push around because somewhere else, they're the ones getting pushed. Often at home. They're discharging pain downward because that's the only direction they know. That doesn't excuse the behavior. Please hear that clearly. The impact is real regardless of the source, but it contextualizes it. And once I had that context, my anger at the people who hurt me, I'm not saying it disappeared. I'm saying it changed shape. It softened into something more like understanding. Not absolution, just understanding. I have learned to forgive people who never apologized to me. I've had to. Because otherwise my healing would be held hostage by someone else's growth timeline, someone else's willingness to reflect, someone else's readiness to show up. And I couldn't afford to wait on that. Neither can you. When I've fully forgiven someone, I can talk about what happened without any emotion attached to it. When it becomes just a fact. When it's just something that happened, not something that's still happening to me. And I'm probably not there with everyone. I don't want to pretend that I am. But I know what it feels like to get there. And it's one of the most freeing things I've experienced. On the flip side of that, the things I did that I'm not proud of, I've learned to forgive myself without always having the chance to apologize. I've also learned to forgive myself when apologies are possible, but in providing them, I could end up causing more damage. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is hold your accountability quietly. Do better and put your apologies into the universe without demanding they be received. The key is learning from your mistakes. Only then will you stop causing pain. Something else that keeps coming back to me is that we are not fixed beings. The person who caused pain 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that's not who that person is now. Trauma, experience, growth, time. These things genuinely change people. Society fails to leave room for that. Social media makes it very easy to freeze someone in their worst moment and treat that as their permanent identity. But I can tell you from my own life, I'm not the same person I was in my 20s. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. My 100% today is different from my 100% last week. And I think if more of us could hold that about ourselves and about each other, there would be a lot more compassion in the world. I was in the Navy for almost 9 years. And anyone who has served in the military knows that suicide touches that community at a rate that breaks your heart. I've lost people. I've been scared for people. I've known the weight of a phone call that comes too late. And one thing that has shaped me, probably more than I even realize, is this understanding. You never know when your words will be the thing that adds weight to someone who is already barely holding on. I'm not saying one comment causes a crisis. Human pain is far more layered than that. But I do believe that we each have the ability to either lighten someone's load or add to it. And most of the time, we're not even paying attention to which one we're doing. I was reminded of that a few weeks ago. I had a moment with my niece where my reaction came out in a way I immediately knew wasn't right. I'm a person who thinks about this stuff. Like, this is literally what I build my life around. And I still missed it in that moment. I'm human. We will all miss moments. That's not a failure. That's being human. The goal isn't perfect awareness. The goal is growing awareness. The ability to catch yourself a little sooner, to repair a little faster, to notice the pattern before it fully plays out. Something I've been working on for years, and I'm still working on it, is what I call speaking productively instead of just speaking kindly. We've all heard, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. And that's not wrong, but I've outgrown it a little because kindness as a standard can sometimes mean swallowing things that actually need to be said. Does it open something up? Does it serve the person or the situation, even if it doesn't feel comfortable? Because sometimes the most caring thing you can say is hard to hear. And sometimes the cruelest thing you can do is say nothing. That being said, if the answer is that it is productive, but I know it will be hard to hear, kindness, compassion is an absolute requirement. The question is always, what is this meant to do? If you don't have a good answer for that, maybe sit with it a minute before you open your mouth or put your fingers on the keyboard. Something important for all of us here, especially those raising children or working with young people. The kids who hurt us are raising kids now, and the kids we hurt are raising kids now. And we're all just doing our best with whatever level of awareness and healing we've managed to accumulate. That could feel a little depressing, but for me, it feels like possibility. Because every time one of us does the work, every time we choose accountability over defensiveness, curiosity over judgment, repair over avoidance, we change what gets passed forward. We change the pattern, not just for ourselves, but for the people watching us, for our kids, for the ones who are going out into the world and interact with other humans who are also just trying to figure it out. Every interaction we have is a possibility. A possibility for harm, yes, but also a possibility for healing, for recognition, for a small moment of kindness that someone carries with them for 30 years without you ever knowing. I think about that girl I smiled at in the grocery store when I was a teenager, the one I mentioned in the first episode. She looked like she needed it. I had no idea what she was carrying. I just smiled. If our words and our carelessness can wound people for decades, then our kindness can stay with them for just as long. That, to me, is worth paying attention to. The question I want you to think about today is, when people walk away from you, from a conversation, from a relationship, from a moment that didn't feel like anything at the time, what do you hope they carry? You don't have to have a perfect answer. I don't. But I think the fact that we're asking the question at all puts us in a different place than we were before we asked it. And that's the work, isn't it? Not perfection, just awareness. Not getting it right every time. Getting better at noticing. Being human on purpose. Before I close out today, I want to take a second. We touched on suicide in this episode, military suicide specifically, and I don't ever want to gloss over that. If you are struggling or you love someone who is, please reach out. There are people ready to answer. The numbers are in the show notes, one for anyone who needs it, and one specifically for veterans. One more thing worth knowing, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So if this is something that lives close to your heart, that's a good time to get loud about it. The show notes have everything you need. I'm not going to ask you to share your thoughts in the comments today, though you're always more than welcome to. Our whole conversation was about the things that we plant in each other without knowing it. The wounds, the kindness, the words that take root. So, instead of leaving words behind this time, I'll ask you to just drop a seedling emoji in the comments to let me know you listened and that a seed has been planted. Of course, the best way to help that seedling grow is to like and share this episode. It'll definitely help this little podcast grow. And as always, until next time, be a little more human, a little more on purpose. All my love.